Okay, so welcome everybody. Good evening. We are here for the public portion of the first meeting of the Advisory Team on Government Policies and Practices. Some of you are new because you're from the public, and so we welcome anyone from the public who is here. The 12 members of the advisory team, along with 3 members of the police department, have been working together for the last hour and 15 minutes. We've had Chief Pullman and then officers Eric Beddick and Corey Huberty, along with our 12 members that you all see here. So my name is Michelle Lizey. I'm on staff here at the City of Red Wing. I'm the Community Engagement Specialist. And Dominique Johnson is our, Dominique, wave for anybody who doesn't, okay. So Dominique Johnson is our facilitator. She will be our guide over the next 18 months of this first phase of the advisory team that focuses in on policies and practices around public safety and policing. So since this is the first public portion of the meeting, Dominique, we didn't talk about this, but I'll give you 30 seconds for those who have not met you. Can you do just a brief introduction, since we'll be seeing a lot of you, and I figure you deserves a second introduction. So if you could do that.
Sure, I'll be as quick as possible. I'm Dominique Johnson, a native of Baltimore, Maryland. I have lived the last 8 years in Brooklyn, New York. I spend my day job working as a Senior Director of Community Engagement at the Center for Policing Equity, where we work on all things policing. And so we are meeting the needs of community right now and all of their conversations around reallocation, reimagination, defunding, dismantling, you name it, we do it. And we're also helping departments think about harm reduction policies as they sort of transition into different identities of what it means to provide services to communities when communities are sort of asking them to sort of move things like mental health and social services out of their purview. So I will say that they're a lot more similar than you think. And as someone who's a native of Baltimore, growing up with a police department that I did not trust, I can sort of say that we're all working towards the same thing. And the hope is that we come out of this 18-month process with recommendations that will be sustainable, that will make sure that they're community-centered, and that we can collectively move forward in reimagining all aspects of public safety and pass the baton to the next group.
Thank you. Thank you, Dominique. And Melissa, I know you are there. Roger Chief Pullman just contacted me and he needs another invite sent. So Melissa, can you give me a yes, if you can do that?
Yes, I will do that right now.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay. All right, good. And I know that this group has had a lot of listening and a lot of taking in things. So I will, not make this too long, and I hope that it is not boring for you. But what we thought is it would be really helpful to ground the work that this group is doing, just to do a brief overview, a City of Red Wing Government 101. And we'll take questions, and I'm sure there will be many questions along the way. I'm also not promising that I know all the answers. If I don't, I will find them for you. One thing I'd like to ask the group before we start is, if you picture the way that you think your city government is set up, and you picture it in your head, almost like, businesses do organizational charts. I'm going to ask you this question, and if anybody wants to raise their hand and answer, who do you think would be at the top of that chart? Who in our city of Red Wing is at the top of the chart? What you might say is the most important. It could be a person, it could be a group. Michael.
The community, the citizens of Red Wing.
Yep.
At the end of the kids, at the end of the day, it's about them, to be honest with you. Let me rephrase that. The children of this community, because at the end of the day, it's about them.
You're right. Exactly. Melissa, if you can share that first chart for us. Michael got gold star, ding, ding, ding. He got the answer right off the bat. When some people think of how their government works, and we can get into just sort of get in a little bit tighter there, you can see that bright yellow square, and it basically says city of residence. I think we can, down at the bottom, Melissa, you can kind of increase it. Anyway, the city residents, you all are at the top. And those are folks you know, your own family, people you meet at the grocery store, your neighbor. That is online. That's our City of Red Wing organizational chart 2020. City residents are at the very top. You will see that there are 2 blue arrows there. And those are the folks who you all in the community elect. And you elect 7 city council members and you elect the mayor. So let's go through that a little bit, but I wanted everyone to see that is how your city government thinks about the way it does government. This is the way it is supposed to work. This is the way democracy is meant to be. And so city residents are at the top. Everybody else kind of works for you. So next is city council members. And I will tell you that when I moved back to town, when I had 2 little babies, I couldn't have told you who my city council member was. I honestly didn't know what they did. And I don't know, it's kind of embarrassing now, but at the time, it was only when people started coming door to door during election time that I really understood a little bit more about city council. I now understand that these 7 folks are incredibly important. They're incredibly important, and they make the decisions of Red Wing. So in some cities, you might think Chicago, Atlanta, and cities, small towns and cities all across the country, the mayor might be the person who makes a lot of those decisions. But the way that city Red Wing government works is that your city council members make those decisions. So it's really, really important to know. We can click off there. We can maybe not share for a minute, Melissa. Thank you. It's important to know that those city council members are regular people. They are regular people like you and me. They might be your child's teacher. You do run into them at the grocery store, in your church, wherever. They're people just like you and me who run. And that group of people gets together every other Monday on the 2nd, 4th Monday of the month and make some really hard decisions. So it's important to know who they are, and it's important to know what they do. And so I'm just going to go through a couple of the main things that you may or may not aware of. So the council is the legislative body that creates local laws. They are the ones who make our local laws in Red Wing, and those become city code. So it's a pretty big deal. The second is they are responsible for all the finances, including the levying of taxes. There are some staff members who get into the details and all of that, but at the end of the day, the city council is the one who is making the decision on the budgets and making sure that Red Wing does what it needs to do in order to be in a financially good place. Council is a service provider, which is something, again, some of us don't think about, but they are responsible for making sure that the city is protecting its residents through public safety, and they make sure that the basic services are provided to everybody. So you might see, we all see all the folks who are working super hard at collecting the recycling and the garbage and shoveling our snow and fixing the roads and the bridges. All of that happens, but your city council members are the ones who are making decisions about what projects get done, how they're paid for, that they're done in a timely way. So that is another thing that they are responsible for. Finally, the city council is an employer. I mean, they directly supervise the city council administrator, and they're responsible for hiring and firing 9 officers of the city. And Melissa, can you put that up again? It's just helpful to know. So in the chart, the city council is responsible for hiring and firing of the public works director, the city attorney, engineering director. Melissa, do you want to share? or maybe not. Okay, we'll keep going. The fire chief, the city clerk, the administrative services director, all of these folks that you see, we'll go back one. You can go to the first one, Melissa. Okay, so all of these folks that you see right in your orange and the green and the blue, all of those departments are really managed by the city council. Now, if we go to the second, if you see in the yellow square, it says city council administrator, kind of in the middle of that screen. That person, it might sound like an administrative role. Actually, that person is much more than that. That person is head of all the departments. In the city of Red Wing, our city council administrator is Kay Kuhlman. She has been in that position for more than 20 years. All the other departments report to her. Melissa, can you flip the chart? So Kay, in that city council administrator role, is right below the City of Red Wing logo in that bright yellow box. All the other department heads report to her. So it's just important to know sort of how things run. Each of these squares, there is a different color for every department. And this is just a handful of the staff. There are many more people as part of that. But it's important to know how the city council administrator is situated in the whole piece. So before we leave our charts, we'll go back to the first one more time. So when you see yourselves, you are at the top. Your city council, you elect the city council and they make the decisions. The city attorney is the small gray box that we can get into. It's probably not, pertinent here today. And then the city council administrator is the person who manages all the other departments. You'll notice that the mayor is to the side and that you all elect the mayor as well. Now, in some cities, the mayor is the one who makes all the decisions. Red Wing we have a different kind of city government. We can kind of get off the chart now. Thank you, Melissa, for your help. I asked Melissa to help with that tonight. In Red Wing, we have a different system of government. And the mayor is called the titular head of the city. It's kind of it's what we call it, the titular head of the city. And that means he or she is in a place of leadership, but that role doesn't equate to as many powers in Red Wing as it does in other cities. So there are two really important things that the mayor can do. The mayor can veto a vote, a city council vote, and the mayor appoints all the members to all the 14 boards and commissions. So I'll say that one more time. There are two things the mayor does. The mayor can veto a vote. Again, that can be overridden, but an initial veto is something the mayor can do. And the mayor appoints all the members to the boards and commissions. Those have to be approved by the city council, but the mayor is the person who puts those up for appointment. We'll get into boards and commissions later, but so those are big roles. But the mayor is not technically voting on things like the budget and ordinances and laws and policies. Now, the mayor can put forth something that he or she thinks is very important. They listen to issues, and residents contact the mayor all the time. So the mayor is really eyes and ears on the ground to the community and brings forward to the city council things that he or she thinks is important and that the community needs, but the mayor is not voting. Does that make sense, or does anybody have a question about that before I go into a little bit more? Okay, if I don't see any hands, I'll just go through a little bit. Okay, city charter. What the heck is a city charter? You might not even know what a city charter is. I did not originally. The charter is like our Constitution. Okay, the city charter that Red Wing has, it's sort of like the foundational document. It really sets out how the city's run. It's actually not that long. You can actually read it fairly quickly. It's online, and we will make sure that all these documents, all these materials that we talk about, they will be on the advisory team webpage that will be set up within 24 hours. So all of this information will be able, if you're interested, to look into it. As a side note, if you want to know more about any of this, give me a call. We can get you set up or with whoever, and we can make sure that you understand as much as you want to about the inner workings of city government. So there are a couple other foundational documents that you might want to know about. The city charter is one. The other is the city code. City code is basically, it's the book of laws. That's what it is. The city code lays out all of the laws of Red Wing. We also have the 2040 community plan. That is the 20-year plan that the whole community has gone through a 2-year process. And so that will also be a link on the site. The city has a 10-year strategic plan. 10 years out, it's looking at what do we want for the next 10 years. And that was taken from the 20-year plan. But the council also set priorities for their 1, 2, and 3 priorities. The city has an annual budget. And then there is also a 5-year capital improvement plan. And that is approved with the budget. Really, it's a 5-year look at all of the large capital improvements that Red Wing thinks it should make. That's based on how the community has voiced their opinions, the budget, council priorities, but that is online. We'll make sure that you have a link. And that is something that also is a big part of the budget process. I'm pausing. There's a lot. Okay. I'm going to walk just a little bit into boards and commissions. Boards and commissions, different cities have different things. This is totally up to the city. I think it's it's really cool that Red Wing has 14 boards and commissions. 2 were added this year. That does not happen very often, but 2 were added this year. Those are groups. They're made up of volunteers, anywhere from 5 to 12 people, depending on the board and commission. And there are topics like human rights, sustainability, the airport board, the library, the Sheldon Theater, the Youth Commission, that just started this year, the Arts and Culture Commission, that just started this year, the Advisory Planning Commission. There are 14 of these. Pretty much, if you are interested in anything in city government and you want to be a part of it, there's a board or commission that can be, maybe fit your interests. And so if you're thinking, I'll always just do a plug here. If you're thinking even after this advisory team that you're ready to step off, but you want to do something else, then commissions are a really good place to look. And I would also tell all of you in all of your circles that you walk around in every day, if you hear that someone is interested in being a part of city government and you guys are so good for nudging people, giving them a nudge to say, you know what, you might not have thought about doing this, but there are some really great places to go and sit on a board or commission and really have your voice heard. So I would just, that's my sort of plug for all of you, that if, let people know that we are looking for people in the boards and commissions, and it is, you as an advisory team will work very similar to a board and commission. And I'll tell you a little bit about how they are similar. Boards and commissions, they take on topics that they are interested in. They do research. They really get into some good discussions during workshops where they're really discussing. Sometimes they feel like an issue is sensitive or it's complex and they need to get more public feedback. So they find ways to go out into the community and ask people. Sometimes it's a public forum, sometimes it's a survey, sometimes it's an event. It can be almost anything. But these boards and commissions really think about topics like you are thinking about public safety and policing, and they work together as a group and try to move things forward. The other way that you are similar is that boards and commissions do not make the laws. They don't make policies. This advisory team that you're on right now, this group will not make the laws and will not make the policies, but you all, just like a board and commission, will make recommendations to the council. You as a group, and just like a board or commission, they work together and then put forward recommendations. Sometimes the council doesn't do that. Sometimes they decide that's not a decision that they either want to make or they're not going to vote that way. But they always listen. They listen to what the group has done, how the proposal fits with the current needs of the city, how it fits with the long-term or short-term planning. Many times they do take those recommendations. They always take them very, very seriously. They know the people in the community have worked hard on those recommendations, and they listen very closely and seriously to those recommendations. And so just like a board or commission, this advisory team, the city council is grateful that you are here, and they are very watchful of and excited to hear updates and excited to hear what this group comes up with over the course of 18 months. So we kind of covered a little bit about how does the advisory team fit in with this sort of landscape of city government. And while this isn't technically a board or commission, we originally called it a task force, and I'm glad that that terminology changed. Thank you, Michael, I think, for that. Michael brought that up at a meeting, and it was an excellent point. This is an advisory team, and it's a team of people who are working together. You're not always going to agree, like Dominique mentioned earlier, but this is a group that will respect each other and respect the work of the team, and then advise city council on decision making. So let me see if I've got everything here. I will make a note because it just came up about budgeting. The budget cycle right now is in full force. So each year, the city budget process starts about in April. It's never really not happening. I will say that. Just like your own personal, what we're supposed to do, our own personal budget, it's always sort of evolving. City government is always thinking about budget, but it really starts full force in April. And that's when city council starts having budget workshops. The public is always encouraged to come. And then there is a series of budget workshops and budget discussions during regular city council meetings. There is information, and I will make sure that you all have that information to the budget page. So if you are interested, we'll go through some of those things together as a team and dig into the things that you all want to. But if you're interested also in just getting a better overall picture of city government budgeting, you can look at those materials, and you can also let me know if you'd like to sit down with someone and go into more detail. Right now, there are some budget workshops coming up in October, and then the budget needs to be signed off in December. What our council members say right now is, please contact us. Tell us what your priorities are right now. So if you or anyone you know has something that you'd like to let our city council members know about the budget for 2021, there is an email on our website that goes to all the city council members and the mayor at once. And you can just click on the city council icon. We can also put it on our page, but let's see. I think that's it. I wanted to make sure that this group knows that we will be setting up, like I mentioned, an advisory team page that will have all the materials that are covered. It will have the links to the recording. It will have the notes. You can share those with the public. There will also be a web address. So if there is a member of the public and you know that those, someone really wants to ask a question, share a concern, something they want to know about the work, anything like that, there will be a web address where people can send that. So we really want the public to be able to know that they have a voice in this. The very last thing I'll mention is that we will have a survey going out to the community shortly, right after our second meeting. And that survey will go out, and it will go out at the beginning of this process, halfway through this process and at the end. And we'll share those results with you all, and it will be asking people's opinions and thoughts on a variety of things. There will be occasions when we send you all, as the 12 team members, that we send you a survey, very short, 4 or 5 questions, so we can get a read on how you're feeling, what you're thinking, what we're doing right and what we're not. So we have a couple minutes here where I can take some questions. That was just sort of a lot. In our second meeting, Chief Pullman will get a much larger time slot where he can really go through sort of policing 101 in Red Wing and start that process of understanding the system so that we can get to the rest. But I'll just pause here right now and see if there are any questions on that sort of city government 101 piece. Juan, did you have a question?
No question, just a comment. I just want to say thank you to everyone that's here and everyone that's involved. I look forward to coming up with great, so any solutions or just anything. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that's involved in this.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'll pause one. Any questions? Okay.
I will say one, can I chime in really quick before you?
Yeah.
So I think this was a lot of information, and sort of as we move into our second meeting, I would encourage everybody to come with a question that they've had sort of about it, or think about one thing that you've learned that you want to know more about, one position that may have interested you that you didn't know existed, sort of something specific, because this is going to come back again as you're thinking about all of the systems that you're trying to pull together. So it's very important you know the structure so that you can think about, if I pull from here, what does that look like? If I pull from here, what does that look like?
That's right. And so what we'll do for the rest of our time, it's already 7:47. What we'd like to do is Dominique will just spend a couple minutes sort of laying out what our next couple week meetings look like. And after that, we're going to ask all of the folks who've come here from the public to just, after Dominique's piece, just to click off this meeting. And then we're going to spend the last 5 to 7 minutes with the advisory team members and our police representatives, talking about what worked for you, what didn't, and what you would want to see in the next few meetings. I know that this meeting was a lot of just information, and it's sort of like the first day. That's my kids are feeling like, there's a lot of online information kind of being thrown at you. So the next meetings will be more interactive, but we do want to get feedback after every meeting so that we can make these meetings as productive as possible. Dominique, do you want to kind of go through what our next meeting at least is? And that's really only in 2 weeks, so it's coming up.
Sure. So one of the things, since we are recording this piece of it, is that I want to share the framework generally for these meetings will be educate and activate. So the education portion that we normally do with cities as they're reimagining their public safety is around understanding the systems, how they work, and how they've been impacting community members, whether that be in a burdensome way or in a way that has been very successful, and we want to keep that going. So the educate section is going to be the public section like Michelle sort of did today, where she went over the City of Red Wing's governmental structure. Next week, in 2 weeks, that will be sort of the policing 101 piece for Red Wing. And we will be working with the chief to sort of talk about do a specific overview of what the department looks like in its current form. That could include things around the budget, the staffing. Many people in the private group talked about quotas, service calls. So we'll sort of pick a good group of overview topics to go through for that department. And then one of the things that will be in the activate section is thinking about, okay, what do we want to have a deeper dive into? some people could learn about the staffing piece and say, hey, I want to know more about this, 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 and this. And then some of the other people could be thinking more about the pieces around the budget or the quotas or the service calls. And then we'll take each meeting to sort of educate the group on those particular pieces of it and go into a deep dive. And then the other piece would be the activate side, where we're coming up with recommendations, solutions, other questions. We'll be doing some guiding research that we need to do that I'll walk people through. So if you're looking at where do you move the needle in terms of if we pull service calls for mental health away from the department, where do they go? We'll be looking into those sort of dominoes of pulling services, pushing services, moving services around, and that activate piece of it. And again, this first meeting was about sort of me getting to get a feel for the city, even though I can't be there in person. And so I really do appreciate you all taking this virtual journey with us. I will say I need to visit because everybody sort of mentioned the nature, the landscapes, the river. I'm very excited about that. But I will say that just to give a caveat for everybody, this is a process. It is not easy. It is not going to be easy. And every sort of piece of public safety is so interconnected with another portion of a government system that you really have to understand all of them in a comprehensive way. And I think you guys are off to a really great start. I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
Great. So we'll just, if we can, are there any questions before we have members of our public step off? Any questions from our team members? Okay, great. So we're just going to ask members of the public to kind of click off, step away from the meeting, and then we'll just spend a couple minutes as the team members and our police reps. We'd like you just to be really candid and let us know some things that you think seem like they're working for you or will work, because we haven't had to really use these things yet. But what do you feel, all the things that Dominique talked